In today's episode of the Educational Duct Tape Podcast, my friend Molly Klodor is joining me to talk about encouraging and ensuring academic honesty in an educational ecosystem that includes AI. We'll talk about MagicSchool, Google Arts and Culture, Google Applied Digital Skills Lessons, aiEDU, Code.org, SchoolAI, AI detectors, and more. And you're not going to want to miss the strategies for implementation that she suggests for different grade levels. Ever wonder if teenagers are secretly trying to break everything they touch just to see if you believe them when they say, "It was like that when I found it"? I used to be a technology integration specialist at a middle school. Now I'm just a parent of middle schoolers. And trust me, their ability to break things and deny it is just as impressive at home as it is at school. My teenage son and his friends recently decided that our family's bikes needed a trip to the skate park. You could see where this is going, right? Yeah, they crashed into each other. The kids were fine, but the bikes, not so much. One bike had a broken gear cable and a bent back wheel. My son insisted it was fine. Spoiler, it was not. I wish today's sponsor, Visor, could help with bike repairs because they're experts at managing repairs for Chromebooks and other school devices. Visor lets you manage repair tickets, see which student has which device, check out devices quickly with a barcode, disable lost or stolen Chromebooks, and automate power washing. For educational duct tape listeners, visit visor.cloud/Jake. That's VIZOR.cloud/Jake to get special pricing and awesome swag, including a copy of my book, Educational Duct Tape. With Visor, keeping track of repairs for broken devices is easier than riding a bike.
Welcome to the Educational Duct Tape Podcast with Jake Miller.
Welcome in, duct tapers. For those of you who are new to the show, my name is Jake. I'm an educator from Ohio, and because you're listening to the show, you are now a duct taper, my friend. And that means that you believe in the educational duct tape metaphor, saying that educational technology is at its most useful when it is not the goal of the lesson, but a tool used to solve a problem, meet a goal, or address a learning standard. Similarly, using duct tape is never one's goal, but it is an incredibly useful tool when solving problems or helping you meet a goal. So, educational duct tape. As I shared in last week's episode, this school year's episodes will have a slightly different cadence than the early years of the podcast. During the 5 or 6 days following the release of this episode, I'll be inviting you, the duct tapers, to share your thoughts about what Molly and I discuss. This could be your reactions to what we share or your additions. There will certainly be things that we leave out, and that's where you come in. Those additions or reactions that you share will likely be featured in next week's episode of the show. That's right, I'll grab the audio and mix it into the educational duct tape crockpot alongside my own reactions to create a savory, so tasty episode showcasing all of your wisdom. So head over to the Padlet at eduducttape.com/Padlet or the SpeakPipe at eduducttape.com/SpeakPipe to share your thoughts, your responses, your additional tools and strategies and suggestions you'd like to share. Both of those links, as always, are in the show notes. By the way, I will say the Padlet is my preferred method because you can communicate with other audience members there, while on the SpeakPipe, it just submits it to me. So on the Padlet, you'll see other people's responses and be able to respond to them. On the SpeakPipe, it just comes directly to me, and then I'll put it in the show, but there will be no discussion in the meantime. Also, on the Padlet, you could submit videos, which is really nice too. Again, you could do that at eduducttape.com/Padlet or eduducttape.com/SpeakPipe. Do you like to win things? I bet you do. Since you do, I'd like to invite you to participate in a little contest. Anyone who shares about the return of the podcast, or just today's episode in general, between now and Labor Day here in the US, that's September 2nd, will be entered to win a free signed copy of my book, Educational Duct Tape. If you share on social media, be sure that it's public and that you use the hashtag #EDUDuctTape. If you see me like the post or comment on it, you'll know that I've seen it and have entered you in the drawing to win. If you share elsewhere, maybe in an email to your colleagues or on a private social media account, just take a screenshot and send it to me at jake@jakemiller.net. That's an email, jake at jakemiller.net. So again, share about today's episode or the return of the Educational Duct Tape podcast on social media with the hashtag EDU Duct Tape, or send me a screenshot of you sharing elsewhere. And on Labor Day, I'll grab all of those names, write them on tiny pieces of paper, stick them into my Cleveland Guardians cap, and pull out 10 winners to get a signed copy of my book. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me just grab my soapbox from over here. Yeah. There we go. That's perfect. Climb up on there. Hey there, duct tapers. It is finally time for me to tell you who to vote for in the 2024 presidential election, and I will share the Facebook posts that informed my opinions. I'm kidding. Don't worry. I promise not to be like those awkward family members or former high school classmates who flood your Facebook feed with partially informed political opinions. So instead of talking about elephants and donkeys, I'd like to revisit two other animals, cows and buffalo. Remember our buffalo metaphor from the last episode? We discussed how, unlike cows, buffalo face storms head on, minimizing the time they spend in the storm. I believe, as you know now, that this approach is something we should emulate when it comes to AI and education. Unfortunately, human nature makes it really hard for us to avoid that cow reaction, which is to respond to AI with what we call and let me apologize for adding another animal into the educational duct tape zoo here, but the reason it's hard for us is what we call the lizard brain reaction. The lizard brain is a name for the most primitive part of our brain, and it is in charge of things like feeding, fear, fight, and flight, along with a few other primitive responses. And the natural reaction to AI for most adults comes from the lizard brain. AI challenges our core beliefs about what education is and what learning looks like. It's a threat to our core beliefs. So, of course, our brain, our lizard brain, skips right past thinking and goes straight to either ignoring these vast changes, that's flight, or getting mad about them, that's fight. Some of us do both of those things. That's our lizard brain talking. But as we learned, running away from the storm or standing still only prolongs the discomfort. So we have to use the other parts of our brain. Even though the natural response is the lizard brain, we've got to use the other parts. Not fight, not flight, not fear, not anger. We have to use thought, open-mindedness, problem solving, and curiosity. You know what? I take it back. I would like to talk to you about who would make a great president. Don't worry. I'm not going to tell you which one I think is going to be great, Trump or Harris. I do think one of them will be great. I'm not going to go there. What I do want to talk about are some of the presidents from our history. You see, a group of historians and political scientists sat down and looked at all of the presidents from history and ranked them. Those were then averaged together, and a group then looked at the great presidents, right? The ones that were at the top of that list, and looked at the characteristics that they had. Well, in his book, Think Again, Adam Grant shares a very powerful insight about this. He said, according to those studies, what set great presidents apart was their intellectual curiosity and openness. They read widely and were as eager to learn about developments in biology and philosophy and architecture and music as they were in domestic and foreign affairs. They were interested in hearing new views and revising their old ones. They saw many of their policies as experiments to run, not points to score. Although they might have been politicians by profession, they often solved problems like scientists. You are an educator by profession, but we need to also look at artificial intelligence like scientists. As Grant said, we need intellectual curiosity. We need openness. We need to read widely and be eager to learn. We need to be open to new views as well as to revising our old ones. It's a growth mindset. It's risk-taking. It's actually the scientific method. This will help us navigate the storm more effectively and harness that rainfall to turn it into beautiful flowers and productive crops.
Today's guest.
Today's guest is Molly Klodor. Molly is the instructional technology coach at Chagrin Falls Exempted Village School District in Ohio. She is a Google champion, a former English teacher, and an advocate for using technology to enhance student learning. You could find Molly on Instagram at Mrs. Klodor, which is Klodor. So Mrs. MRS Klodor. As always, though, that is in the show notes, but not in the show notes. Actually, here on the podcast is the actual Molly. What's up, Molly?
Hi, Jake. How's it going?
It is going well. It is summertime, and we are chilling and talking about educational technology. My wife thinks I'm weird right now for doing a podcast interview. She's like, "Why are you doing that? You are off work right now."
This is summer.
Yeah, this is summer.
Go jump in a pool.
Go jump in a pool. But I like these things, right?
Well, I'm glad to get to chat with you. It's just fun to hang.
I told her, I was like, listen, I get to talk to Molly. This is not like work because Molly is awesome and this is going to be fun and she is smart and I'm going to learn things.
I'm excited to learn with you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, let's start some actual educational duct tape stuff now.
2 truths and 1 lie.
So we have to start off with 2 truths and 1 lie. I have to tell you, Molly, I don't know the order these are going to air in. I think this is the second interview recorded, but I think this is going to be aired before that one. So far, in my recordings at least, I am 1 for 1. I was correct the very first time played, which is much better than my original record and the original run of educational duct tape was. So I'm going to see, can you stump me at 2 truths and 1 lie? You ready?
We'll find out. All right. Yes. Okay. These are in no particular order. Number 1, I did theater in high school and performed in 21 different shows.
Okay.
Okay. Number 2, I grew up near Cedar Point and was one of the first people to ride the Millennium Force.
Okay.
All right. And number 3, I fell riding my bike and had to have physical therapy on my lip.
Okay. That's my favorite one for sure. Okay, so it sounds right to me that you're from the Cedar Point area because it just does. I maybe because you introduced me to Tofts. I don't know, Tofts ice cream. For the listeners who don't know what Cedar Point is, you're crazy, but it's the roller coaster capital of USA, right?
I think so. It used to be.
Yes.
Millennium Force was once the tallest roller coaster in the world for a long time.
Yeah. And I could see you being in theater, but 21 plays is an awful lot. But physical therapy for your lip, that's sus. I think that's cap. I think number 3 is a lie. You did not have physical therapy for your lip.
I did have physical therapy for my lip. That is true.
Okay. Well, they're working great right now.
Thank you.
I'm like, her lips look totally normal.
They look normal.
I'll always be watching them and be like, do her lips look funky?
Is this right? Yeah, I was, I think 6. I was riding my bike in a parking lot next to my house. And my brother was riding behind me really fast, chasing me. And I took a turn too fast and I fell on my face. I specifically fell on my teeth. And my face bled a lot. And my parents took me to the hospital and they scraped the tar off my teeth, which was awesome. But the connection between my lip and my teeth, like gums, broke. And so I had to have physical therapy to rebuild that. I think it's like a tendon or something.
It seems like a tendon. I'm feeling a little queasy now.
Yeah, it was
that story.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, stuff like that gets me. You start talking about the tendon ripping in there. And I feel that in my stomach a little bit.
In the grand scheme of things you have to go to the emergency room for, it's not the worst, but it was weird.
Do you have memories of the physical therapy?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Was it a lot of like making kissy faces and smiling and stuff like that?
You had to hold your lip and then manipulate it up and down, like around your teeth. Okay. My brother, that's his favorite story about me. He was the one who did it. He was chasing me. It's his number 1 favorite story.
His fault. The one time that I broke my sister's lips.
Yeah.
Right.
He tells that at dinner parties.
I bet he does. Okay, now that's funny and that's awesome. So we're probably gonna have to air that, but just in case.
Wait.
Play. Yeah.
Wait, you don't know what the lie is.
Did I break the game again?
Already. This is episode 2. You already forgot how to play the game.
I already forgot how to play the game. I practiced so much. Okay, so wait. So live there. Okay, now we don't need to record which of the following is less torturous, because now this is really funny that I screwed this up, and I definitely have to air that.
If anybody was wondering, is educational duct tape going to be back just like the way it was before? Right. Here's your proof. Back.
I'm in mid-season form.
Yeah.
Just as ridiculous and poorly orchestrated. I need a producer. There should be somebody like on the other side of my computer giving me cues like, you still don't know what the lie is.
Yeah, kicking you under the desk.
Right. Okay, it's the plays. You were not in 21 different shows.
I was in 21 different shows.
So I guessed incorrectly twice out of 3 tries.
Yep. There's only one left.
Guess, right? There's only one left. And I played the game wrong. Okay, so you have been in 21 shows. Were they all like school productions, or were some of them like community theater, or what kind of stuff was it?
Yeah, it's a mix of school and community theater. There was a community theater in town, and so I basically did a show from about every month of the year. Wow. It was fun. Okay, but it was fun.
What was your favorite role to play?
My favorite role was one of the ugly stepsisters in Cinderella. If you watch the Brandy version of Cinderella, I don't know, it came out in the 90s, with Whitney Houston as the fairy godmother. There's one of the sisters who laughs really obnoxiously, and I modeled my entire production off of her. And so I did this laugh in one of the previews or dress rehearsals, and my mom was there. And there was a little girl who was there and shouted at the top of my lungs after I did the first laugh, "That was really funny." And so that's my number one point of pride. That was amazing. Really funny. That's awesome. Never been called really funny before.
That's awesome. Okay.
But I never.
The other thing, hold on. The other thing was a lie.
The other thing was a lie.
Okay. You did grow up near Cedar Point, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't ride roller coasters at all, do you?
I don't really. I hate roller coasters.
Oh, okay.
I've never been on Millennium Force.
Okay.
Not once.
Do you go to Cedar Point?
Yep. We have season passes as a kid, and I still have a season pass. And I ride
spinny rides.
Yeah, low to the ground. I don't want to go upside down.
I can't do the spinnies, but I'll do the roller coasters for sure. As long as they're not rough. Like, I don't want to be jostled around. Like, I'm fragile. But, like, I'll do, like, as many loop-de-loops as you want. Just don't jostle me around.
I don't want to go, I want a smooth track, and I want to stay low to the ground.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'll remember that. I'm just laughing at myself for breaking this game in the second episode I recorded. And this might be the one I air first. So this might be the very first one I air is me.
That's great.
Damn game up. Sorry. I gotta give it an explicit lyrics tag too.
Oh dang!
For complaining. Oh no, I gotta do it for dang too.
No, I said dang. You know, it's fine.
You dang's okay. All right.
I think so. I don't either.
With the, I'll check with the FTC on that.
Aw shucks.
Aw shucks. Yes, that's what I gotta do. I'll just bleep it out. People are rewinding to see what I said now. Like, what did he say? Back 15 seconds. Did he really swear? Okay. All right. Let's do some actual educational duct tape. So my educational duct tape question to you, Molly, and this is a perfect one for you because you have been super involved in the AI work. And I got to say, for the folks listening, the school district that Molly is at, Chagrin Falls Exempted Village School District, has been like one of the leaders in Ohio in how they're embracing AI, but also planning for AI and being conscious of the pros and cons, like being cautious, but being really getting out in front of it, being forward thinking, being proactive rather than reactive in more ways than one. And you've been a key piece to that in the work that you've done with the teachers. So that's why I wanted you to be on to talk about this, and that's why this question is perfect for you. So the question is, what tool or strategy would you use to ensure academic honesty in the age of ubiquitous artificial intelligence? So I'm sure the question that a lot of the teachers you work with is like, all right, but how do I know they're not cheating? And so you probably hear this question repeatedly. And so what do you recommend? What do you say?
Sure. So the first thing that I tend to say is that students have cheated for all time and will continue to cheat in different ways as new technologies evolve and as new technologies emerge. Students are going to find a way to cheat. And so we don't want to do everything we do just to prevent cheating, because then we're going to be stymieing our own opportunity to innovate and try new things. So we don't want the fact that students will cheat to limit us from educational innovation. We want to make sure we're staying up front of things.
Yeah, so don't stay away from AI just because they might use it to cheat, right? I saw Ken Shelton speak recently, and in the speech, he was talking about this. And Ken said, am I sacrificing long-term benefits for short-term gain? So in other words, like if you are avoiding AI to avoid cheating, there's a short-term gain there for sure, right? You're getting more accurate assessment from your kids, but you're sacrificing the long-term benefits of exposing the kids to a situation where they use that with integrity, the way we want them to use it and the way they need to use it in their future.
And we have some data to support that argument already. So a study came out of Stanford University. They do a survey long-term of students and ask questions about how often they cheat. Before AI, 60 to 70% of students reported cheating. Now, they don't define necessarily what cheating looks like, but 60 to 70 students reported that they cheated. They did a survey again in the age of AI, and 60 to 70% of students still reported cheating. So what that tells us is students are still cheating to the same degree that they were before AI. And that's kind of good, right? I mean, not good that they're cheating that much, but that we're seeing those numbers stay pretty close to where they were before. To me, because I think we'll never stop students from cheating all the way. And that's just the way of school.
Right.
This tells us that our students are cheating at a rate that's the same. So we're not really upheaving the whole system. So we want to make sure that our students are not cheating, but we have to also know that the cheating kind of stays. It's part and parcel of being a school.
Yeah.
So know
I
that.
think there's a lot of reasons in the way that we do school that leads to it. And so that's a whole other discussion, is why is it that the kids even want to cheat, right? And there's a couple things. One is, if we've built a system with the way we grade that doesn't encourage having a growth mindset and taking risks and says, hey, if you get something wrong, you're going to get a bad grade for it, it's going to count. The kids are like, well, then I'll cheat to make sure I don't get it wrong, right? Or I don't have time to finish it, so I'll cheat. The other part is when our goals are performance oriented, meaning our goal is just to get the A, or our goal is just to complete the assignment, or our goal is just to get above this grade level. What's performance oriented, that's motivating in a different way than if it's mastery oriented. If a kid's trying to get better at a skill, right, that's different. And a kid that's performance oriented in their goal, they are looking to attain that goal at any cost. And that cost might be cheating. So if we can flip the script and get them mastery oriented, where they're just trying to get better at skills and they care about their mastery of that skill, they're going to do that. Like, we don't see kids cheating in sporting events, right? Because they care about getting better at that sport. So it's a different thing. But you're absolutely right. We have to just admit that there's a certain amount of it just there anyhow.
And then to continue that vein, that train of thought, if we want to keep our students from cheating, then we need to change our assignments. This discussion isn't new. We had this discussion when Chromebooks were coming into every single classroom, when students could Google their answers right in school. They didn't have to wait till they got home to look it up on the internet. You know,
But that's not true. They were cheating at home on the computer. All that changed was they were cheating at school on the computer, right?
And all of a sudden we were all anxious about cheating, even though they had been doing it before. And so similarly, I think we can AI proof our assignments in a way to help students do work that's high quality work that can't be done with AI. And there are a couple of different tools that you can use for that. But, doing synthesis kind of discussions where students need to, take information that they learned in a class discussion. Maybe you ask them to take notes in class from a discussion and then go home and synthesize that information with an article or a chapter from their textbook. Then you're asking them to do work that AI struggles with right now. And in the models that are free, AI is not able to synthesize information the way that a human can. Mm-hmm. So there are lots of changes to an assignment that you can make that will really supercharge your classwork to make it not just AI resistant, but just in general cheating resistant. It's harder to copy down what your partner wrote if it's innovative or if it's asking students to put together lots of different thoughts. I also really encourage our staff to try to use AI themselves to ask AI to provide them AI resistant assignments. So going into ChatGPT or going into Gemini and asking, this is my typical assessment that I would give my students. How do I make this AI resistant? And it typically can give some examples that teachers could use to create an assignment that could not be done by it, which seems very strange. And for teachers who are very new to AI, really maybe haven't made a ChatGPT account or don't go on to Gemini, I encourage them to check out the AI resistant assignment suggester in MagicSchool. MagicSchool is an AI tool that's specifically for schools. It has a teacher platform that when a teacher logs in and makes an account, they have a whole suite of tools, a big long suite or dashboard of all these different things that they could do with AI. So
they're so well curated. You go in there and you're like, I didn't even think about using AI to do this thing. It's a thing I need, and I never would have thought of using AI to do. And I think what's happening is it's like they're taking the prompting out of our hands. Like we no longer have to write the complex prompts. It's just there for us and built and ready to use. Which is great for a teacher that's new to AI. I mean,
for sure. And even if you use AI a lot, but feel like your responses to your prompts aren't what you want, MagicSchool is a great tool to help you get those prompts, refine those prompts a bit using their tool, and then maybe help you kind of learn how to prompt yourself when you go into a larger AI model. But so MagicSchool has a whole suite of tools, but one of their tools is an AI-resistant assignment suggester. And so the teacher types in their grade level and gives a little bit of information about the assignment that they've typically given or the content that they're covering. And then it generates different suggestions of assignments that you could give your students that are AI resistant and not AI proof. Nothing will be fully AI proof, just like nothing is fully internet proof, but it will provide some things that are difficult for an AI chatbot to accomplish.
Right. I've never used that feature in there, but it's interesting to me because almost anything I do in AI, I don't get the response I want. Like I get something pretty good, but it helps me think about the task more effectively. So I bet if a teacher does that, they see the patterns in what makes an assignment more AI proof. And then they can go like, yeah, not quite that, but I see what you're doing. It's maybe this, right? And then the teacher can use their pedagogical knowledge and content area knowledge to tweak what MagicSchool's suggesting. So it's a really good thought partner.
Yeah, exactly. AI is not as good as a teacher is. And that's true right now with the free models. That's true right now with the paid models, that if you ask an AI tool to write a lesson plan, it's not going to be as good as a lesson plan that a teacher would write. But my sort of like motto that I've been telling teachers about AI is that AI won't replace teachers, but AI models might replace teachers pay teachers, which I think is a great opportunity for teachers to sort of democratize their own learning, that they have the opportunity to get some extra support you might not have had before. So I think MagicSchool is a great opportunity. All of their tools are amazing, but that one I really like for teachers just to get an understanding of what they could assign to hinder our students being able to use AI. And I should say that MagicSchool is a freemium model, so that particular tool is free. But right now, the tools are free. So if a teacher logs in, has a free account, they can interact with the tool. But like some of the exporting options cost money. So to export it over into Google Forms, that costs money. But just to copy and paste it over, that would be free.
Yeah. I want to point out that so far, and if you have other things to, other like tips like this to share, we can totally do that. But so far, you haven't named a tool that actually like busts kids cheating, right? We're not talking about busting them cheating. You're talking about how to ensure academic honesty by the thing that you do as the educator, right? So before we talk about those things that could, quote unquote, bust kids cheating, do you have other suggestions for how to not even need to do that, maybe?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a couple of other things that I would encourage teachers to try. First, we can assign AI resistant assignments. But second, I think we should consider using AI in our assignments as a part of the assignment, an AI enhanced assignment. So instead of busting our kids for using AI, I encourage teachers, not every day, but to try to embed AI, student use of AI, inside our assignments. And there are a couple of different ways to do that. But the reason why I think that's so important is our students are graduating in an AI enhanced world and living in an AI enhanced world even before they graduate. And so helping our students learn how to use AI appropriately and responsibly is a really important skill. And if we don't teach it here in school, it's not like the world is going to teach it to them because it's new there too. So I'm hoping that schools learn ways to help teach their students how to use AI appropriately and effectively so that students can use AI when they are outside of school appropriately and effectively.
I think anytime we see that kids don't have the skill to do something we want them to be able to do, it's tempting to then back away from that thing, when in reality what we should be doing is going like, oh, they don't have those skills, we need to help them develop them. You know what I mean? And so if we're saying like they're not ready to responsibly use AI, then we probably should be scaffolding AI into things to help them learn to responsibly use AI so that they could use it. So really great point.
I know that, one of the arguments that teachers make and schools make and families make is that the privacy policies of these AI tools are not designed for students. And that's totally valid. I think there are some tools that we can use that will help support that scaffolding. If you have students who are young and maybe unfamiliar with AI, Google Arts and Culture has a few AI games that are really fun for students, but also just help them understand that AI is a computer that's automated, giving answers and using prompts. And our students really love Quick Draw, which is a Google game. Nobody has to make an account. They don't need to read much on the screen. It's just a fun little game, but then it's a great teaching opportunity to follow up with, how did it guess that you were drawing an umbrella there? And what were you doing? And sort of building in that understanding of what artificial intelligence is. Using tools like Say What You See, another Google Arts and Culture game. Great game that, again, doesn't require any account. You have to type in what you're seeing, the prompt of what you're seeing, and it will sort of guess that prompt. So it's a fun little game. Kids really like it. Could be tossed into your class. It's an indoor recess or you've got 10 minutes left of class. It would be an easy thing to toss in and help students learn how to write a good prompt. There's a Google Applied Digital Skills lesson on AI, which is a really solid piece for students not using AI, but learning what AI is. So we've got lots of tools to help students learn what AI is. Another place would be aiEDU, has outstanding programming. There are lots and lots of tools that you could use to support students learning about AI.
Yeah, I have not looked at the aiEDU lessons in a while, but when I last did, I was really impressed by, I felt like there was a teacher mind behind it, not just a tech mind. Like I felt it was really well designed. And code.org has some resources too. I've just seen that they're there. and it looks like they've got some good extensive stuff, but I haven't explored it deeply. But that's another thing for people to potentially check out. So I like this idea. So you're saying, I want to get AI into the assignment, but first I need to expose kids to the AI in some different ways. And so some of these are using a tool that uses AI, like Quick Draw, for example. So it's not like a lesson on AI, but it kind of is. You're using AI. And then you're saying do some things that deliberately are instructing them on life with AI, like that Google Applied Digital Skills lesson and things like that.
Yeah, and here's my shameless plug for your tech coaches and library media specialists in your districts. You know, if you as a teacher don't feel like you are equipped with the knowledge to be able to talk about AI with your students, I think that's fair. It's new. So you might not feel comfortable talking to your class about it. I'd encourage teachers to reach out to their tech coaches if they have them in their district who might be able to come in and talk to your students, or talk to your library media specialists. You know, this time in our world right now, library media specialists are more important than they ever have been before, because we have to train our students how to interact with digital media critically, and our library media specialists are trained. They went to so much school to be able to help teach our students with that. So reach out to those folks in your districts who might be able to help.
There are a lot of tech coaches and library media specialists listening right now, like that are doing little clicks, like as you say that. So thank you for that. That's a really good point. If you feel unqualified to do this part, there are probably people, I know it's not true in all schools and all districts, but there are a lot of people that are just like begging to come in and help you with that would love to. So yeah, great point.
Yeah. And then, you know, when you're ready to move into using AI with your students, there are two tools in particular that we've used at Chagrin Falls that have been really successful. The first is MagicSchool. Again, MagicSchool has a Magic student platform where teachers make an account and teachers launch what's called a room. And in that room, the teacher chooses certain tools. So you could have 10 tools available to a student, and those students will get a code that you push out into Google Classroom. Kids just type in their name. They don't need to make an account. So this is not going to require students to make an account. There's no data privacy exchanged. Students are just typing in a name. And then they will hop into this room where they can choose which tool they want to use or which tool is appropriate for them. So we did an example if the students were writing an essay. So I was an English teacher. If their students are writing an essay, you could have a tool like an idea generator, a grammar checker, a translator. Maybe if you have a student whose native language isn't English, you could have a translator tool available for them. You could have a debate partner as one of the tools that the students can interact with. So it allows students to choose the right tool for them amongst a list of tools that a teacher curated for them. And then the teacher can, on their dashboard, see every student and their interactions with the AI tools. So teachers have the opportunity to have that layer of oversight to check for understanding and things like that. It does not give a score. So it's a good formative assessment, but there's no scoring.
And so this is nice for two reasons. One is it's like freedom within fences, right? The kids are going to be excited that you're giving them freedom to use the tools, but you have up fences to make sure it's safe. Like you're saying, it's going to be MagicSchool. It's going to be one of these 10 things that I've curated for you. It's going to be here, right? So they've that freedom and fences, so they're more likely, that feeling of empowerment and trust is going to make them more likely to activate their academic honesty. So that's a pro. And then the other part is that oversight that you're talking about there. We obviously don't want to be checking on every single thing kids do, but it's like when you're first learning to drive a car, you need that instructor in the passenger seat with the extra brake pedal just in case, right? And so you're kind of building that in. And how else would you know that they're not using the AI effectively if you can't see it, right? And so you could see it, and then you could address it too.
And that's a good teaching opportunity for students who are maybe having a debate partner and, you know, having that chat with that tool, and they're not getting an answer the way they want it to. Then we can talk about your prompting and like, what are you saying? And how could we adjust what you've said to be able to communicate with the computer to get the output that you're looking for? So you're teaching some of that computational thinking. You're teaching that kind of reasoning skill that is difficult to teach in not a computer science class. The other tool that I really like is SchoolAI. SchoolAI is another freemium tool. There are lots of teacher tools that go along with it, but it has a chat option where these are called spaces. So a teacher launches a space, and similarly, you post a code in your learning management system, or the kids scan a QR code. They type in a name, and the student can interact with a space, and teacher has a whole dashboard. One of the differences between SchoolAI and MagicSchool, and there are different reasons why you would use different tools, but SchoolAI is one space at a time. So you would launch the debate partner one, that's one space, and then there would be a whole other space for an editor tool or something. So you would have to have multiple spaces posted. However, the spaces inside SchoolAI are more customizable. You might only need one space, and you could customize it to add in all the things that you want the space to do. So, for example, we had a chat with Hobbs and John Locke, and we told the space, we're talking to this grade of student. The students are going to talk to you about this particular thing related to American history, and this is the outcome that students will have. And so we were training the space to only do that. So when the students pop in and say, I want to talk about, Kendrick Lamar or Taylor Swift, it will sort of redirect them. MagicSchool does that too. It gives them that fence, but SchoolAI will sort of redirect students into this very tight little boundary in a really safe way. And similarly, teachers have that oversight view. So both tools are great. You use them for different things. One thing to note, Magic Student is a free feature inside MagicSchool. And under the free version of SchoolAI, a teacher can have 75 users per day. And each one they log in, each student is one user. So if they close out of that tab and reopen it, that's 2 users because it's not collecting their data.
They don't close their tabs anyhow. Don't worry about it.
They have 80 up there.
Right.
When their computer crashes because they have too many tabs open, that counts again.
Well, they've got the tab open 5 times. They just can't find it before. So 75 users per day really is only like 15 users because each could have. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So you mentioned how each space has its own kind of intricacies. Are there limits to how many spaces you could have running at a time or anything like that?
I've never run into that, and I've been launching these for our staff a lot this year, so I've had at least 10 running at a time and not run into any challenges.
Okay, but then in that 75 user limit, that's total across all of the spaces in your account.
All the spaces, right.
So if I have 2 spaces that I'm running and I want one class to use it, are they a separate user when they go to each space? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Right.
they're a separate user for each space. Because it doesn't track their data as they move. They're a new person every time, even if they type in the same name every time.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, they got to pay the bills somehow.
Right. We've done it like with a station rotation model classroom. We've had it. Yeah, that was really fun. And that was with a 3rd grade class. So it works with young students. I would say 3rd grade is probably the lowest I would go just because the AI doesn't understand what level a 2nd grader reading is. It really doesn't understand how to adjust for younger students.
That's a good tip. That's good to know. You're not saying that about using AI in general. You're saying SchoolAI, because of the way it's a chat, it'd be hard for a kid below 3rd grade to communicate effectively with that chatbot. That makes sense.
With support, one-on-one support, at a teacher table, I think you could use it at younger levels, but independently, I would say 3rd grade and up.
Mm-hmm. Good tip. Any other ones that you throw out there? That's a lot, so you don't have to have other ones. I just want to make sure you get to share them.
Yeah, I would just say, if your school allows students, ChatGPT is 18 and up with no parental approval, but 13 and up with parental approval. And so if your school agreement allows, we say it might help students as they get older to start transitioning away from these teacher and school models and transitioning over into the real models, just because that's what they'll have when they graduate. So, that might be something to at least talk to your tech team and the folks who make the rules and regulations about student use of certain sites. It's just something to consider discussing.
Yeah. Great tips. So one of the first things that happened after AI hit the scene, made the big splash with ChatGPT, like the very next thing Well, the very next thing was saying like, where you at, Google? But then actually after that, the very next thing was, oh my gosh, how do we detect this AI text to see if kids are cheating? There's a lot of tools out there. The first one out there was GPT-0, and then OpenAI had their own one called Text Classifier, and now there are dozens because it's like the thing to put into your website name in order to get people to search for it, because that's what all of the teachers are searching for right now. So what is your stance on AI detectors?
AI detectors are unreliable, consistently unreliable, and so unreliable that I do not encourage our teachers to use them. They disproportionately flag students whose first language is not English, right? So students who do not natively speak English or learning English or are even pretty talented English speakers, but still maybe working through some of the grammatical structure, AI detectors flag their writing as AI at a really high percentage.
Yeah, there's been studies done about that. Both Stanford and Cornell have published some studies about how it's done that, which, number one, we don't want to falsely accuse a student of having cheated, right? We don't want to do that. It's a relationship that requires trust, teaching does.
Right.
And so we don't want to break that trust by accusing them of that. And we definitely don't want to do that, especially for a student who is a non-native English-speaking student. Like, there are cultural differences coming from the household, but then there's also like a whole set of things that I, as a white boy from Ohio, I can't even imagine what they're going through with these experiences, you know?
Right.
So we definitely don't want to do that to these kiddos. We don't do it to any kiddos, but definitely not to kiddos who are non-native English speakers. So yeah, great point there.
Yeah, and I also have read several studies that have mentioned that students who are neurodivergent are also seeing really high incidences of their writing being flagged as written by AI. And so these students, you know, similarly, these students have built a trust with their teacher, and we don't want to erode that trust by always suggesting that they've been writing using AI. So the detectors are unreliable. There are some things that you can do as a teacher. It's not all doom and gloom. Hope is not lost. There are some things that a teacher can do. But I think that those things that a teacher can do are the same tricks and tips that you have been doing as a classroom teacher this entire time. So in Google Docs, for example, you can see version history. So that would be the first thing that I would do if I had the thought that a student might have cheated or used AI. I'm going to pop right into the version history, and I'm going to see how often an edit was made. You know, were there any paragraphs that came over in one large chunk? I'm going to check that first. Some kids have figured it out. And so what we know some students are doing is they're doing a side-by-side tab. First of all, yay, they learned how to split their tabs. Great time. So, but they're splitting their tabs and they're just retyping each word. So we know that revision history isn't always going to catch it. So the next thing you're going to move to as a teacher is, does this sound like what a student would do? You know, you talk to that kid in the hall. You have a class discussion with those students. You know what they sound like. And you know what a student of that grade level sounds like. You know, I've taught a lot of different grades, but pretty consistently I taught at least one section of 10th grade English. I know what a 10th grader sounds like. So if I'm reading their work and this doesn't sound like what a 10th grader has done, that's a clue for me. This might have been done using some tool, whether it was AI or they copied it from the internet. That's my clue. And then I know the words that they're going to use and what we've taught in class. And so if they're not using the words that we are using in class, then that gives me a clue that they're getting their information from somewhere else. Who knows where that is necessarily? I don't need to know every answer to those questions. I just need to know this isn't exactly what we would have done. And so from there, you do the same thing you've done always, which is go talk to that student. You take that paper with you and you just say, I'd really like to know more about this paper, or I'd really like to know more about this assignment. What could you tell me about your process when you were writing it? And I'm not trying to catch you. I'm not trying to do a gotcha thing. But I want the students to be able to explain what's going on. And generally, that's been very effective. I'm sure some things are slipping through the cracks, but overall, I feel very confident that we have identified a lot of the AI use that was unauthorized in school this year.
Yeah. I like that point of talking to the kid about it. And the conversation isn't, did you use AI on this? The
Right.
conversation is like, tell me more about this assignment. Because our responsibility in that situation is, I believe, to not only just help the kid grow and help them develop their skills, but what we're trying to do when we give a kid an assignment and then we're looking to grade it is we're trying to assess their mastery. Like, have they mastered this skill? Have they not mastered this skill? If they haven't, where are they at in their journey to mastery of this skill? And a conversation is a great way to make that assessment. And if in the conversation they demonstrate mastery of what we were trying to get them to demonstrate mastery of, I don't really even care if the original assignment was cheated on. I mean,
Right.
I do, but like, that's what I was trying to figure out is, did they master it? Yes, they mastered it. And I'm finding it out that way. And to your point, like, it might just uncover whether it's through an admission or just a bad bluff that they have
Right.
used AI. But again, the important thing is assessing for mastery, and that's what you're going to end up getting in that conversation. That's a really good tip. And I like that in all of those tips, what you're really saying is don't use an online AI detector. Just be an AI detector yourself. Think about like those online AI detectors. What they do is they look for certain patterns in the writing and things like that, and find things that they think are AI-like. And so, what you're saying for the teacher to do is have your own set of patterns that you look for. And those set of patterns are what happened in the Google Docs version history. Does this sound like everything else I've heard this kid write and what this kid talks like? And does this include the vocabulary we used in class, or are they suddenly using words that we don't use, right?
Right.
And does this match up with what they said in that discussion that I had with them to get a deeper assessment? So those are all really good tips about how we as the teacher could be the AI detector ourselves.
Yeah, and I think having conversations with our students up front, at the beginning of the school year or at the beginning of an assignment, clearly telling your students what your expectations are about AI use in your class is really important. Having language in your syllabus that says, here's how I want you to use AI this year. And even if your answer is no, never, I'm not telling you you can't have that as an answer for the next couple of years, but at least it should be explicitly stated for every, I think, major assignment. You know, again, I'm an English teacher by trade, so I'm going to put that at the top of every essay assignment. Hey, these are my expectations for your AI use for this particular assignment, and we're going to talk about it for every major assignment so that our students always know in each class what their expectations are. I think a lot of times our students don't always know what is cheating with AI and what isn't. Is taking my essay that I've already written and copying and pasting it over into an AI tool and asking it for suggestions on how to improve my essay. Is that cheating? Is that using AI? Or is taking my thesis statement and pasting it over and asking a chatbot for an outline, is that cheating? I think being able to talk to our students about what is cheating, what is plagiarism with AI is so important. Just that conversation with your whole class.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, that they might do some things that they think are okay, right? And not realize it's not. Or they might not do some things that they could be doing because they think it's not okay, and we want them to develop the skills to use it. And so we have to be crystal clear about what our expectations are. And it might be different from classroom to classroom. It also might be dictated by our principal or by our district level, and it is what it is, but we have to be crystal clear with the kid about what those expectations are. And I think, to your point of like, is it okay to ask AI for an outline or something like that? On the Ditch That Textbook website, Matt Miller has a list of questions about, is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Is this cheating? And different teachers will fall at different places on the scale. And that'll be a really good tool to use to determine what you are okay with and what you're not okay with. And then I think we have to not only be deliberate in teaching and telling the kids what we're okay with and what we're not, but I think we have to model it too, because as teachers, there's things that it's okay for us to use AI for in our jobs, and there's things that it's not okay for us to use AI for in our jobs. And so I think if we have that discussion about, these are things that I use AI for, and these are things that would not be okay for me to use AI for. Even ask the kids, what parts of my job do you think it's okay for AI to do for me?
Right.
And what should I be doing with it? And hopefully then they say, well, you should probably be checking to make sure that when AI wrote that email to my mom, that the email was actually well written.
Right.
And so those discussions will help them understand what really is academic honesty in our classroom, what's okay, what's acceptable, what's not. That's a really good point.
Yeah, and I think our students are just figuring it out along with us. And so I want to empower everyone to give themselves grace and to say, listen, I'm learning. And so I might have changed my mind from what I wrote in my syllabus in August to now in November. Things have changed. And so being able to talk to your students about that you're being flexible and that you're learning is really going to help our students feel, I hope, feel safe in that they're also learning. So
what a great lesson on multiple levels for you as the teacher to go like, hey, I used to think this in terms of AI use or whatever, and now I think this in terms of AI use, and so now I'm making a change to how we do things in class, and I'm admitting to it. Like, we're showing our growth mindset, we're showing our willingness to admit we were wrong or that we changed our mind, we're showing that we're continually learning and revising our practices, we're showing how much we trust them and that we're telling them these things, we're modeling to them why we make the decisions that we're making so they don't just seem like arbitrary decisions were made. That's a really good point. If your feelings change, tell them about it.
It's okay.
So two more tools. One, have you seen Brisk?
Yes, our teachers love Brisk.
Yes. And so that really goes hand in hand with your Google Docs version history suggestion. Wouldn't you feel like it's kind of the same thing?
Yeah, so Brisk is an extension that a teacher would download on their computer, and as they're reading work, I know we use Google Classroom, so I know as our teachers are opening docs in Google Classroom, Brisk really just looks at the version history and gives you kind of like a report that tells you how much time did they spend on this assignment and other sorts of data points. It doesn't necessarily tell you whether it was written by AI or not. It just gives you some information about the progress of the assignment.
Right. So some good data that is probably useful no matter what, but also some good data to help you be your own AI detector. And to your point of it doesn't try to detect AI, we don't want it to. We don't want you to, Brisk.
Yeah, you're great the way you are.
You're exactly what you're doing right now. It reminds me of back in the day, there was DraftBack. You remember DraftBack?
I love DraftBack. Still exists, and I still love it.
Oh, it must be at a different link now.
Oh, maybe.
Okay, so I'm going to have to look at that. So DraftBack literally just replays the writing of the assignment from beginning to end in order, and you'll see if it's a big chunk of text pasted at once, you'll see it kind of bloop in there all at once. Brisk kind of does that, but then also gives some stats and stuff like that too, right?
Right, and we love it. I would encourage people who are feeling like they need a little extra oomph in supporting AI detection. I would encourage teachers to try it.
Awesome. Okay, last one. It kind of goes with the AI detectors. What about TurnItIn?
TurnItIn.com has been around for a long time. It does cost money. It's not free. And it has, regular plagiarism detector, and it will give you and students a score that says what percentage of this work has been plagiarized. It also, now there's an AI detector, and it will pull in its AI detection. They published a white page report on its efficacy, and they rated it very high. But if you read the white page, it's a pretty small study and with undergraduate students. So they've not published any data on high school or lower grade students. So I feel a little anxious about it. It's still going to flag students whose English is not their first language. It's still going to flag those neurodivergent students. So you're still going to have the same trouble that you have with other AI detectors. It is rated higher than other AI detectors, though. So if you desperately want to use an AI detector as one part of your conversation.
Don't bend.
I would say I'm not paying for it. Personally, I wouldn't pay for it. If I were an English teacher in the classroom, it wouldn't be a part of my budget. But if you have it and you want to use it, it should just be one part of your conversation.
Yeah. I think go ahead and use the plagiarism part in it. That's scraping the internet to find if that was written somewhere else. If you have access to it and you want to use that part, fine. But I would say don't use the AI detecting tool. I think you're right that it does have a higher efficacy rate. But I believe I saw a study that wasn't published by them. It was published by somebody else. Maybe it wasn't even published. Maybe it was just like a tweet where somebody tried it a bunch of times. I'm not sure. And found flaws. I mean, 80% efficacy or something like that. And if I'm guessing on the 80%. If I could find the study, I'll put it in the show notes. But let's say it's 95%. If it's 95%, that means that if you're a middle school teacher with 100 kids, you are falsely identifying cheating or not cheating of 5 kids in your class. This can't happen, right? So we just cannot use it for that.
Yeah, if TurnItIn shows the students the score first, right when they submit it. So if a kid pushes TurnItIn and sees that this flagged, so what percentage was AI, generated with AI, that could be traumatizing. So you don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's a big no for me. I think the thing that teachers maybe don't understand is there's no like tracker inside of AI writing that a tool could go like, there's a tracker. Like there's nothing there, no signature that says this came from this tool. There's nothing hidden in the code or something like that tells it. It's just making a very educated guess. And as you said, that very educated guess disproportionately affects some of our students and does affect all of our students. So I would say, nope, that's a big NO for Jake there. Yeah,
I'm on your side.
Yeah, but I've got bad news for everybody listening and a surprise for everybody listening. This whole episode actually AI generated. Me and Molly are not here. It is AI, Jake and Molly.
This
right?
isn't our voice. We trained an AI model.
Run this podcast through your AI detector, and it's going to tell you that it was AI created. No, if you ran it through TurnItIn or something like that, it'd be like, no, this was not AI detected because AI would have played the game of two truths and a lie correctly.
It'd be way less chaos.
It clearly wasn't. It clearly was not AI. That was a human and an imperfect one at that. But I'm the imperfect one, Molly. I think you were perfect. This was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing this stuff.
This was great. I'm so honored to be on. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited that educational duct tape is back.
Thanks.
Baby.
Guess who's back? Back again.
Back again. There you go.
Jakey's back.
Jake is back.
Tell a friend.
Tweet a friend. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we got how to tweet anymore. Yeah, but thank you. Like so much information. For those of you listening, like there will be copious things in the show notes for you to explore all the different things Molly shared. Lots of great tips and lots of great information. Again, I want to reiterate that you, for the most part, until I prompted you to do otherwise, talked about the things that we could do as teachers to ensure that academic honesty is commonplace, is the main mode, not worrying about finding the dishonesty. You're saying do things that ensure honesty, not things that prohibit dishonesty. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Being proactive, not reactive. So thank you for that. I celebrate that message, and I appreciate you being on. Thanks so much, Molly.
Thanks, Jake.
Okay, folks, that does it for our interview with Molly. Isn't she awesome? Did you have any different strategies or tools for ensuring academic honesty in this age of ubiquitous AI that we're in now? Do you have any responses to what Molly shared or to what I shared? Well, this is your chance to share. Head over to the Padlet at eduducttape.com/Padlet or the SpeakPipe at eduducttape.com/SpeakPipe to share. Both of those links are in the show notes, so you can head right over there and click on them. I would really, 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 really love to hear your thoughts. And guess what? The other duct tapers want to hear your thoughts too. So next week, I will share some of those duct tapers insights right here in the podcast. So go ahead and share on one of those two sites for your chance to be featured in next week's episode. Before we wrap up, here's some EdTech news that I've got my eyes on. Padlet has released a flurry of updates. They've added the ability to create Padlets using AI. They've added a Flip importer for moving your Flip discussions into Padlet before Flip goes away. They've added a new gradebook that can even sync grades into your learning management system. They added feedback features, an AI Talk for Me feature where you type the text and Padlet provides the voice. They also added the ability to automatically freeze or unfreeze Padlets on certain dates. They added AI-enhanced moderation with Safety Net, and finally, a Jamboard alternative called Padlet Sandbox. Woo! That's a lot. I'll put links to all of those stories in the show notes for you to check out if you want. Well, it is time to hit the brakes on this episode, folks. By the way, that reminds me of the brakes on my son's bike after his little skate park incident. You know, with a bent wheel, they were not working so well. If today's sponsor, Visor, managed bikes, they would have sorted out that mess in no time, or at least kept track of the bike while it was in repair. Luckily, they're experts with Chromebooks and school devices. Visor tracks repair tickets, handles checkouts, and can even disable lost or stolen Chromebooks. Remember that if you visit visor.cloud/Jake, that's VIZOR.cloud/Jake, you can get special pricing and some awesome swag, including a copy of my book. You know, with Visor, managing broken devices is as smooth as a nice bike ride. Thanks for pedaling along with me today, folks.